My name is Branson, Sir Richard Branson, and I'm here to talk to you about the future of travel. I was drawn to going into the travel business out of pure frustration. I was actually in the Caribbean trying to get from one island to another, and American Airlines decided to bump us all. So I hired a plane and I scribbled on the backboard $39 one way to the BVI and went around all the people who got bumped. And as a joke, I put Virgin Airlines at the top and I sold out my first plane. The next morning I rang up Boeing and said, "Do you have any secondhand 747s for sale?" Their response was, "We'll send a salesman to see you, but as long as you promise not to call it Virgin, because they'd assume it won't go the whole way." So anyway, we ended up with a second-hand 747. We offered an experience that people loved, and other airlines started to try to emulate it. And I think the team at Virgin Atlantic can have some credit for really changing the industry for the better. I think what the public wants is to get rid of the sort of guilt feeling of flying on airplanes. I mean, we're spending a lot of time and energy trying to work out ways of making air travel environmentally friendly. And I think that if we can do that, that will matter a lot for a lot of people. We had a meeting with Boeing today where we were saying, could we have more carbon fiber in the planes? Many years ago, we flew a plane called the Virgin Atlantic Global Flyer, non-stop around the world. And that plane was built completely of carbon fiber. We did that so that we could then take Boeing and Airbus to Mojave to show them that you could build planes with carbon fiber, and that by building planes with carbon fiber, the amount of carbon output that you would have would be negligible compared to what it was before. And now, planes like the 787 or the A350 Airbus are at least 50% carbon fiber. You're going to see some very small hydrogen planes in the next 5 years. On long haul, I think it's going to have to be alternative fuels. I think hydrogen is just going to be too heavy for long haul. All these things are fairly unsexy, but we're just sitting in a world which is suffering from enormous heat waves throughout Europe. And it's really important that people like myself and others who may be in a position to push here or there are at least pushing. A notebook is the most valuable weapon that anybody can have who runs a company. I'll make sure I say hello to all the passengers, I'll talk to all the staff, and I'll take notes. I'll act on those notes when I get back, and I'll follow through and just be a good listener. Going on a cruise has never really appealed to me. The image I got of cruises would be sort of queuing up for buffets, and one day we just got out a big sheet of white paper with a bunch of friends. I'd never been on a cruise, and we just said, right, let's list all the things that we'd really love a cruise company to be. In a nutshell, what we ended up deciding was Abramovich's yacht, but for more people. And there's no question that by not allowing children, it's differentiated Virgin Voyages from pretty well every other cruise company. But it's also given us the space to have running tracks, to have basketball, to have incredible workout rooms, incredible massage rooms, all the things that adults want. So I've been involved in a lot of businesses over the years, all because I felt they could be done better. Cruises are a lot easier than airplanes to retrofit with hydrogen because they've got more space. I had a conference on Necker last week about creating islands in the North Sea and other places where the islands would have windmills and solar and make hydrogen so that cruise ships and other ships could just drive up to the islands and pick up their hydrogen. In the meantime, we had the advantage, being a used cruise ship, we could just get all the basic things like single-use plastic sorted, and I think the team have done a good job there.
Hi, I'm Jesse Ashlock, the Deputy Global Editorial Director at Condé Nast Traveler, and I'm here with Richard aboard the Scarlet Lady, the first cruise ship in his new cruise line, Virgin Voyages. So good to be here with you.
It's always an honor to be with Condé Nast Traveler.
Thank you for saying that. So you were telling me a little bit about your grandchildren, about some of the things that Virgin has done to make the world a little better. What else is Virgin as a company doing to leave the world better for your grandkids?
I hope they will find this sort of same fascination of going to places like Africa or India or South America that I found most fascinating. What we do at Virgin is if we have a property, for instance in South Africa called Ulusaba. It's got some of the most beautiful game in the world, cheetahs, leopards, you name it. But we also draw a circle around each of our properties to make sure that within those circles, the community are properly looked after. So outside Ulusaba, we've built a clinic called the Babesi Clinic. We've helped set up schools and organizations to really help the communities. It sounds naive, but if we can try ultimately to get the world to one world where borders do not become so vitally important, where people are allowed to travel to any country in the world, to live in any country in the world, to work in any country in the world, to marry anybody in this world. That would be the utopian world that I would like to see in 50 years' time when the grandkids grow up. People I met at the bar on Virgin Atlantic said it's all very well you giving us a great experience going to Miami or New York or Dallas or whatever on a Virgin plane, but then you dump us on the street and we then don't have that seamless experience. So we've been experimenting on people in Chicago with our first hotel, and we've opened up in Las Vegas and Edinburgh, and we've got a big flagship hotel opening in New York. New York will not be that dissimilar to being on a Virgin cruise, I think.
Let me ask you another question about technology. Obviously, technology can be our friend. It's a huge asset aboard this ship. But some of the most emergent technologies seem to take us within ourselves and away from other people, things like VR and the metaverse. How can those things be beneficial to humanity and to travelers?
I think in a limited way, technology can be helpful, but in the end, people are yearning for real people, real interaction, real feedback. The more people can be themselves, the better the world will be. Technology's definitely helped, but I think it can go too far.
And at the end of the day, the success of all of your brands is built on people, right?
Completely. Virgin Galactic, our motto is to be a space line for Earth, to give people extraordinary experiences, as I was lucky enough to have when I went up. I've fantasized the idea of a hotel just off the moon with pods where you can just see back at the Earth, and little two-man seater spaceships where you can just travel around the moon and come back to the hotel at night times. I was hoping it would be in my lifetime. I'm going to have to get back on that fitness machine to make sure it's in my lifetime. But the market for people who want to go into space is almost infinite. If we can continue to bring the environmental cost of doing it down and down and down, which I think we can, continue to bring the price down, which in time with more spaceships and more motherships we will be able to do. I do think 20 years from now a spaceship will have reached Mars. We may have a Virgin hotel floating off the moon, see where it goes. Everything we do is to try to make the Earth that we live on better. I mean, like with Virgin Orbit, we put up satellites last week into orbit. They're traveling 17,500 miles an hour around the Earth at the moment as we speak. We've got 30 of them. They are monitoring rainforests, illegal fishing, all sorts of different things that are going on back here on Earth. We set up the Carbon War Room, which is trying to work with businesses and trying to help them move towards a carbon-free existence. The Global Drug Commission, which is trying to get governments to treat drugs as a health problem, not a criminal problem. All of us who are in a position just to make a little difference in pushing it that way have just got to do that. And I'm hopeful that my grandkids' eyes will be opened and that they will help open other people's eyes as well.
Let's get in the pool.
Come on.
All right.
All right.